always. Sometimes we have problems with our internet here. It's been better lately, but it's not 100% great. Not 100% great. Anyway, I see people are waiting. Okay, and I got a lot to talk about. I know I said I was going to talk about my most shameful, dirty secret. I'm going to talk about it. My Chick Tracts collection. The sad thing is we had a flood 2 years ago. Hey, Lisa, and they got wet. So I'm going to have to restart it. I may have to order some of these because I don't have all of them, but I have quite a few, as you can see here, and I want to talk about them today because this is a common thing that fundamentalists do to try and win people over to their side. They use tracts. I mean, we've seen Jill Rodriguez and her husband, David. That is their, quote, ministry and their business when they're not on the road. They do a whole lot of tracts. They do tracts. Hey, small town Jewel. Hey, I'm doing well today. I'm doing well. So they do a lot of printing of these tracts. Now, I know they don't print these because Jack Chick, rest in peace, Jack Chick, and I wonder where you are exactly now, had a huge ministry doing these things. And you know how they always say people will tell you exactly who they are if you listen to them long enough. You'll figure out who this person is if you just keep listening to them yak, 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 which is why I always ask 5 trillion questions when I'm with somebody that I think may be a not so nice person or a fundamentalist or something. What's interesting about Jack Chick and his tracts is, besides trying to win over everybody to the Lord and thinking that this is his ministry, is it did reveal a lot about him. He was known to be rather racist. I'm going to show you just a second, talk about. I only have 2 tracts that he has that seem to be kind of racist. Gomez is Coming. This is my all-time favorite one. You can look this up online on his website, and it's pretty bizarre. It's all about people who are involved in a gang, killing each other. And they all have Hispanic names. They all do. He has just gone off the deep end on this stuff. If you don't know what Chick Tracts are, there's something that fundamentalists and evangelicals will give away to try and win people to Christ. They're always cartoons. They're like, I mean, I'm reminded of the artwork of R. Crumb when we see these things. Good morning, Krabby. These things are just, like I said, they're very crude cartoon. Jack Chick draws them. I guess he drew them with black pen, ink. It's like a zine or, something of that nature. This one with the Hispanics and the murder and the drugs and everything else, the prison, ends with Gomez, the badass, making everybody in his circle become Christians because he became Christian in jail. So not only are a lot of them racist, there's ones against Catholics, against Jews, about every other religion pretty much, except for the kind of evangelicalism that he is. I know Jen probably covered them. They're my secret obsession. Like I said, when I get one, I should get happy because they're so weird. They're so just weirdly weird. I swear I've thought about scanning them in and printing them on cloth and doing some kind of really bizarre quilt of hate. It's so weird. I heard about these yesterday. I read on Reddit. People were offended because the sellers are putting these mark orders. Oh my goodness, I didn't hear about that. But I am not surprised at all. And here's another one, the tiny shoes. And this one also makes Hispanics out to be drunks and people who play liquor and the lottery. I play poker and the lottery and gamble and stuff. And this guy His son kept begging him for shoes, tiny shoes. And at the end, God takes the son away after the father has bought the shoes. After weeks of him blowing his paycheck on gambling, the child dies. So God has punished him. And there are just a ton of them, like Cleo. This one is about, it's about somebody's dog that gets caught by the pound, and the pound story of the dog being in the pound and then the family coming and getting them later is spun to be the redemption story. Simplistic, childish, not very deep, revealing some revolting ideas that revile me personally. Where do I get them? People give them to you sometimes. Now, I got a dump of these all at once that actually made it here because my daughter had gotten them. My daughter had somebody that came to her door, was trying to push her independent fundamentalist Baptist church that had a handful of these things. And my daughter was like, nope, talk to the hand. Been there, done that, not doing it. And the person, before they left, but after the door shut, just dumped a handload of these things. And my daughter knew that I was crazy about these things, that I used to collect them once upon a time. But like everything, about 3/4 of my other possessions, they never made it here because Edwina seized 3/4 of our possessions. We moved here, which turned out to be a good thing. I'm just going to come right out and say it. You know, I have no use of Marie Kondo stuff, where she just says, throw away anything that does not spark you joy when you hold it. Well, weird things spark me joy, like this. This is my love after lockup coffee cup. This is one of the things I replace some of my things with, and I adore it. And I know it's too weird for most people, but for me, so she knew that I had lost mine. So 3 years ago, she gave me all of these and said, these are for you. And the witnessing is ridiculous. Like this one, The Long Trip. It's all about a guy's life. It's his life story. And about his wife at the last second getting saved on this long trip, his life, him not getting saved, and at the end, he dies and goes to hell. Here's another one with just a stupid story, his simplistic story of the salvation, which is what he pushes in all of these things. This one's about some poor little Hispanic-looking boy that lives on the street in a box and finds a tract that tells him Jesus loves him, so he dies and goes to heaven. This one is a salvation story disguised as a story about a king and a kingdom. It's just ridiculous. This one is a salvation story of a dude that became a Christian in his teens, that the demons couldn't get him. Someone goofed. Yeah, they did. They goofed because they made these things and they are complete trash. This one makes me laugh because it is ridiculous. This kid, somebody tries to give him a Chick Tract, and his father takes it away and tears it up and says, oh, it's trash, blah, blah, blah. Even though the kid is saying, I don't know, I think I need to come to Jesus, blah, blah, blah. Well, at the very end, the kid and the father die. And because the kid had just started thinking about Jesus, the kid went to hell. Yeah, but they have all kinds of these, but these are kind of like the Super Bowl of tracts. Holy Joe. This is one about a soldier that is a Christian, and they pick on him, they harass him, they get him to do all kinds of crazy shit, and at the very end, the soldier dies under like a combat situation, and his friends start saying, hey, maybe Holy Joe was right. So they start praying and stuff. And then they die. And guess what happens? they go to hell. They didn't pray the right and do the right things in time enough for them. This one is another version of the salvation story that scares the living crap out of you, because at the end, if you haven't accepted Jesus long enough and prayed long enough or hard enough, said the right words, you go to hell. Okay, this is another salvation story, also couched in the language of medieval. It's a medieval story, but it's really just another salvation. All of the salvation ones are just awkward and weird. And you get the impression that he thinks that works are how you win. It's not grace. It's not a free gift given away. It's works and saying the right things. You hear him cussing him out there. He's mad because his computer's not working right. So that's those. And here's the thing. I find those things really insulting for the most part. It is fear porn, Lisa. That's the exact thing it is. It's fear porn. He is trying to scare people to Jesus. And if you look at I wish I still had my collection of them, because I had ones that went way, way back that put down Black people. I had some that went against Catholic and Jews. There's just all this. It's fear mongering against anything that's not a white evangelical. Everybody else is going to hell according to him. And I'm not sure I buy that. That's pretty nonsensical. This listed yesterday. I know I wanted to watch because I remembered about the Majid as well. Oh, mermaid. You had to give those out? Oh, I was fortunate. Our church, even when we had tracts and were giving them out, they were not like this. And here's the thing that I have noticed about these through the years. There's no love in them. There's not one thing in there about the love of Christ. There's not one thing in there about forgiveness or grace or anything. It's all fear porn, like you just said, fear porn to try to beat you into being a believer. And fear porn never works. I will say this for the Gomez is coming one at the very end when he gets his guys to accept Christ. It's less fear-mongery than a lot of the other ones. A lot less fear-mongery. So, yeah, so he is a lot less fear-mongery in this one particular one, but it's the only one I've seen. And even then, it wasn't much about love or anything else. And this one is also, it's also for people in gangs. It says, if you were in a gang, Satan has deceived you, but now you know how to get saved. Make your decision today, because tomorrow may be too late. So yeah, he threw a little fear porn in at the very end too, after a whole thing about Gomez and the drug dealing and the gangs and the drive-by shootings and stuff. Oh man. And for the life of me, I just cannot understand how anybody would think that that is the way to reach people for your religion. I think it's a horrible way. Fear-mongering never works. Well, it'll work on some people. But on the majority of the people are just going to, no, hell no, hell no, hell no. I'm glad I was raised in a calm Baptist church, Lisa. Kitten, I'm not really sure. I haven't seen the interior of the Rodriguez Smile tracks. I'd be curious. If it's like the traditional Smile ones I've seen, where it's like Smile, Jesus loves you, and then it goes and talks about the salvation story in a less fear-mongery way than this, but still some fear-mongering, those are not as bad. Like I said, these are kind of the Super Bowl of stupid and fear-mongering. I don't know. I got to give him credit, Jack Chick. He did have some basic art skills, but he had them about the level of what I've seen some of these zines they used to put out in the days before the internet. So there's that. It's just too bad he didn't use it for something else. You can buy these things at chick.com and see all the pages of like, Gomez is coming. Like I said, my absolute favorite. I may have to actually break down and buy one of those because that's my favorite. It's the craziest one. Everything I've heard about them makes my stomach hurt. It's all anger and hate and misery. That's exactly what they are. I hate that some people think that's what Jesus and Christianity are all about. Yes, that's exactly what it's like. And there's nothing almost hidden because as a child I felt strange about them. Mermaid, I've found tracks in crazy places, and I think it's people who want to do what their high demand or religious organization is demanding, but don't want to hurt anybody. I think the craziest one I ever saw was in Lowe's bathroom. I went into Lowe's to buy something, and because I have mast cell and my body does strange things, it was like, oh, I have so many seconds to get to the toilet. So I ran in there, and I noticed that every stall had 2 or 3 tracks stuck in it on top of the toilet paper holder, and there were still more by the sinks. They were just put all over the place. Well, I went and gathered all of them. They were not as fear-mongery as this, but they were still kind of fear-mongery. But they were the short 1-2 pagers sort of things. And I brought them back to the house, and I threw them away because I didn't want those things to fall into anybody's hands because of the fear-mongery aspect. Angela, he did say that. I was going to cover that. It's just so silly. Silly, silly, silly. Oh, Jadine, yeah, go ahead and do that. And so it's one thing to approach someone and say, hey, I'm concerned about you, and this is why, and have you ever considered, but it's a whole different ballgame when you start being obnoxious about it, you try to fearmonger. I'm not a big believer in going soul winning and door to door or leaving tracts or any of that, even when I was part of the church, because I could see from my years of being not part of the church that you're just going to turn off the whole world when you handle it like that. That was one of the things I really appreciated about Toronto Christian Airport Fellowship. They handled it differently. They handled it way differently when they were going door to door, and didn't even go door to door, and was more love and blessing people right where they were. So that's, people say, hey, can I pray for your healing? Something like that. That's a lot different than saying, come to Jesus or dying and being roasted in eternal flames forever and ever and ever and ever. Rob Bell wrote a book about hell that I wish I could remember the name of it. I thought it was kind of mind-boggling, and it made some really good points. They're blowing up the evangelical idea of hell. Not in the Bible Belts, they don't turn up. Yeah, if you're not, that's the silliest thing of all. So Jim Bakker said that. I guess he's trying to sell more of his miracle silver solution that the FDA has gotten onto him for selling in the first place. They have already they hit him with like a $125,000 fine recently and told him that he could no longer sell his miracle solution because it didn't work. He can't prove it works. And he was selling it on the basis of saying that it killed COVID, and then if you took it, you would not get COVID. I don't know what the percentages of people who were his followers are taking it and later got COVID, but I'm going to guess it's pretty high, particularly right now during the Delta variant. Oh, and I forgot and said the C word, COVID. Oh, well, that cat is out of the bag. Positive messages are never bad. I listen to positive messages from anybody. I mean, a Muslim, a Christian, a Jew, whatever. If somebody is going to give a positive message, that's a whole lot different. I think that's why Joel Osteen is so huge. Well, I don't agree with his theology. His messages are very positive and uplifting for the most part. Now, where he gets it wrong is his whole prosperity gospel that he teaches. I think that's very dangerous and disingenuous. My husband out there, he loves Osteen. So I've been treated to way more of those than I ever wanted to hear from any minister whatsoever. My old church would give out the tracts at Christmas. Every year we had a big outreach in our downtown, our little tiny village, our little city. Would do a home tours where they would have people come into their homes in the section of the town that was turn of the century. Beautiful homes. I tried to buy a house there when we first moved to that town, and the contract went crazy. So there's that. Yeah, but hellfire and brimstone is just not a good thing. And yes, Jim Baker did go to prison for being a fraud for quite some time. Does the same group make those fake $100 tips that people leave for wait staff? Choose Jesus or hell on the other side. The South Bug, I don't think that they do that, but I know there are a lot of ministries that do that. I know I saw one of those. I think that the Rodriguez is printed for somebody. So those are pretty common out there. And I got to tell you, when I was waiting tables in college, and it was $20 bills then, and you saw that 20, the first time it happened, you're like, oh, hell yeah, I'm making a tip. I'm making a big tip. And then you pulled it out and went, oh, man, those a-holes. You're just very, very, very upset. Wow. That's pretty crazy, Lisa. Oh, Lisa, your poor mother. We used to have these revivals at my old church. And we would have oodles of people come. But instead of doing come to Jesus or burn in hell, screeching and carrying on, it was all about healing. They would have people come, and it was really sad. I would participate, but I'd be looking at some of those poor people and going, honey, you need the doctor. Because I remember one lady at our church that would come every time. She had breast cancer, but she refused all treatments, refused any kind of chemotherapy, any kind of surgery, any kind of radiation. I tell this story a lot. She died. She died of breast cancer after saying that Jesus was going to heal her, going to heal her, going to heal her. And not only did she die, her husband ended up with a trophy wife and a Corvette, a yellow Corvette, right after she died. And I was so off put by that. I just could not believe it. And I actually told her one of the first times I met her, when the first time she came to our church, I said, that diagnosis is not a death sentence. There are a lot of us walking around who've had things removed. I've had tumors removed that were cancerous myself. And with a little chemotherapy and a little radiation, maybe some surgery, you're on your way. At that time, I still had my little blue dot on my boob from where they did so that was one of my frustrations with it. But Baker's still a fraudster. He's a lunatic. I think he's still a fraudster. He sells these meals, these dehydrated meals. Some of the funniest videos I've ever seen on YouTube are people buying a Jim Baker bucket full of food and trying the recipes and trying them and going, oh, God, like it's the worst thing in the world, or going, this isn't half bad. Here's where the con comes in with that. Jim Baker does not originate that dried food. He's buying it from some bigger wholesaler. It's like you can buy those through Costco too, You can buy those same buckets, the same amount of food and everything. And he sells them by preaching all these end of the world scenarios. And there are a lot of Christians out there just all about the eschatology. They're all about the end of the world. They want to see the end of the world. They want it to brought on so Jesus comes back and judges everybody and throws everybody in a pit of fire that's not living exactly 100% right. They're really verklempt over that, and it just makes me crazy. I just don't even want to think about that. It says in the Bible, nobody knows the day or the time. I'm believing that. But at the same time, I'm watching friends and former friends be taken in by Jim Bakker. I know somebody who, like I said, she has like $7,000 or $8,000 worth of his dehydrated food. And the first time I looked at that, and I was at her house looking at her, I said, "What are you going to do for water? All these dehydrated foods. What's an end of the world scenario? You're not going to have water to make these things." Well, then she started stockpiling jugs of water. So I don't know. I hate those $100 things. It's just being summarized everything wrong with a certain segment of Christianity. These people and their groups just ooze misery and hell on earth. Jim Bakker is crazy. I watch him and he acts like he doesn't know what's going on. Love and peace. You're right. Love and peace. Love and peace. Recent crimes done in the name of end times religions. Lori Daigle, survivalist. Yes, I was not going to bring Lori Daigle into this because I'm still reading through everything on her. But that's a crazy situation. And I hope she gets a lot of time. That's nuts. That's like going on to YouTubers. That's like, I can't even remember which YouTuber it was that was making excuses for Chris Watts. There are no excuses for that. You don't rub out your family. Family annihilators are a very special segment of serial killers. They just are. It's their family they annihilate. And to excuse that, to make excuses for him, boggles my mind. I don't care if his wife was spending every dime and running him into the poorhouse. That's when you cut up someone's credit cards. You say, okay, we're selling this place and moving to a much smaller home. There are options. Killing somebody does not have to be an option. That just is not it. I don't care how mad they make you. Critical K, you're right. Lisa, I have two, and he does creep me out too, Pat Robertson. So there's that. And there are a lot of them that do that excuse. Jimmy Swagger creeps me out too. And I've met him a number of times in Baton Rouge. And like I said, I cussed him out that one time. Pat Robertson, if you've not had the chance to go to the CBN building in Virginia Beach, it is fabulous. We're talking like flock silk wallpaper on the walls. Whoever put that together, they did an outstanding, phenomenal job. The whole place is just absolutely beautiful. So I'll give him that. He didn't cheat, skate, or stimp on it like some ministries that I've seen where the pastor, he lives large and everybody else, including the ministry, is run out of the back of Beyond in some warehouse that has not been converted. They're just chairs thrown in there. So I'm going to give him credit for that. He spent some of what he takes in to give the people. He has a fabulous hotel too, and his big college. Everything seems to be done first class with him. I'm not sure why. That makes him different than everybody else. So many dirty old men. You know, the proof is in the affairs. You were right. So, I've been to the CBN building a few times because I used to go down to Virginia Beach on a regular. And the nice thing is for me was that Toronto Airport Christian Fellowship would come do their conferences around Valentine's Day every year at Pat Robertson's place. And I loved that. I would go down there for the day or for the 3 days, whatever. And that was how I got to see him, because one of the nice things about the place, there's all sorts of restaurants and things. And I remember there was one restaurant there in the building that we went to that was just beautiful. It was just beautiful again, just like the rest of the building. And the menu was just wonderful. They had all these great foods. It wasn't like getting a grilled cheese sandwich or even a peanut butter sandwich. It was nice. I was impressed. But I was not impressed by him. I was not impressed by Pat Robertson. I was impressed by his surroundings. Even all the way back then, I didn't care Pat Robertson. 700 Club, I used to watch it, but it was like a piece of reactionary BS. Particularly when I would hear Robertson give out advice like an 18-year-old boy wrote he was upset that his father had tossed aside his mother and treated her disrespectful. Pat Robertson said it was her fault and how she treated him, and that she didn't keep herself youthful looking. He just blamed the women. So when he uttered stuff like that on that show, I could not support him even all the way back then. It was like, oh no, I know that's not right. Religion is such a safe haven for grifters. It is. From tithings to mega churches, all grift. Oh, yep. It is just grift with all of these. So many of them. Swan Terrace, you're right. That's exactly what it was. I built apartments too. I would not be a bit surprised by that. Swan Terrace was the restaurant, and it was very lovely. I enjoyed it. But knowing that whatever they make is going into his pockets, I could never eat there again. And I remember going with a couple of my friends to conferences, and they wouldn't eat there. It's like, let's eat there. And I was all about going to Swan Terrace. They were like, I am not paying those prices. So there was that. But so many of these guys, it's a grift. Like I said, I covered Jimmy Swaggart. I know he's a grift from how he acted in Baton Rouge around us. It's a grift. It is a grift. Now, here's where it gets interesting for me, living in Baton Rouge. Jimmy Swaggart lived just down the street from my husband's parents in a neighborhood called Terra neighborhood. When I was a kid, I wanted to live there because at the time in the late 60s, early 70s, that was the nicest neighborhood in the entire town. Jimmy Swaggart lived on one corner. The district attorney, who had all kinds of interesting problems in Baton Rouge, O.C. Brown, he lived here. And then Pat Screen, who was the mayor, lived over here. And then my in-laws lived over here. And they were all within like a couple of blocks of each other. It was just pretty strange to go ahead and see that. Oh, you do, Lisa? You're living in the part of the world I love. I was telling my husband the other day, it's like, when we have to go back to the States because we're too elderly and infirm to keep enjoying Costa Rica, I really want to live in the Virginia Beach, Norfolk area really badly. I love that area of the world. I agree with all y'all's comments on famous preachers. Billy Graham was different than others because you feel his love for people. Swaggart, Robertson, Falwell, all full of hate. That is really true, except my understanding is from people I know that knew Swaggart when he first started that he was as sincere as Billy Graham and that the money corrupted him over time. And I can see that too. My father loved Billy Graham. He'd watch him all the time. He'd kind of hate watch him, though. Wasn't really sincere because he'd always tell me, never trust a guy in a $200 suit. And that's back when a $200 suit was a silk suit, not like now where a $200 suit would be nothing. It'd be like a couple of $1,000 suit. So he used to hate watch Billy Graham. And I always thought that was kind of interesting. At the time, I didn't know about hate watching. But I can see now that's exactly what it was. So there's that. Even my father didn't like him. And it was kind of funny. When Graham died, Pathos poked everybody working there to write about Graham. Everybody was writing these fawning pieces about him. And then in my section, in the non-religious section, people were writing derogatory ones. I wrote one that was in the middle. I praised the fact that he seemed to love people and that he seemed to be really successful at what he did. But I said, I think he failed on the biggest metric that a man can fail on, which is being a father. His own children have talked about what a neglectful parent he was and how he was never around. And I think that if you are a father, that's got to be job number one. Now, you do have to do whatever your calling is in life, but you should not let that interfere with your role as a father. You just should not. You have to carve out time to be a father. Swaggart, her grandma as a child, and he was so sweaty. He is sweaty and acted like a wild man. Yeah, scared the crap out of me. The beginnings of my mistrust of churches. Lisa, my mistrust happened quickly as a child because I was raised going to Catholic school, and that will turn you against religion quicker than you can say, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I've made out with so-and-so behind the, I got drunk during school, blah, 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 you know. We used to make stuff up to see if we could make the priest drop his Bible going into confession. And I never took it seriously then. I just saw what a grift it was even from then. Even though I was surrounded by some rather godly priests and nuns, I still thought it was a grift. So there's that. If you want to turn somebody into an atheist, push a pretty hardcore religion on them as a small child. And usually at some point in those scoffing teenage years, they'll turn against it. Yep, look at Franklin now. Quicker than a nun's rulers. Exactly. So that's it. Anyone remember Benny Hinn? Yes, my aunt still loves Benny Hinn. She's been to a lot of his conferences. I went with her once and was like, nope. And this was when I was still religious. He just seemed like he was working a grift. In fact, one of the funniest videos you can see on YouTube is Benny Hinn praying over people and them being slain in the spirit and falling down. That has been overlaid with the soundtrack from the video game Street Fighter, the original old school video game that they had in the arcade and that they had in the early Nintendo. So that was really funny to take that music and overlay it over top of what Benny Hinn is doing. Benny is kind of funny. He's funny at the stuff he does. Going and wiggling his coat over everybody and a whole pile of people all fall backwards. One time when I was at the Toronto Airport Christian Fellowship and I was thinking about whether some of this stuff was real and some of it was just people playing mind games, because there were people that were roaring like lions. There was a guy who was barking like a dog, somebody crowing like a rooster, and there was blessing, whatever. I'm standing there waiting to get prayer with my hands upheld. And they're singing, the worship team's playing, they're singing one of my favorite songs. And the prayer team came along to pray for me, and they pushed me down. They tried to push me down. There was no being slain in the spirit. It was, hey, go ahead, Lisa, I'll see you later. Slain in the spirit. They talk about that, and there was no slain in the spirit. I didn't feel a damn thing. So I didn't go down. And they came back again and tried to push me down. And I noticed then they were pushing people down to claim they got everybody slain in the spirit. Now, if you feel, I've been times where I have felt that and have gone down, but I didn't feel it that time. So that always makes me laugh that they still do that nonsense. Is an Israeli televangelist that does healing crusades. He claims to heal everyone. He is just a scammer and a grifter. That's true. He does claim that. And there are a lot of people that fall for that nonsense. And you are right, Hermie's mom. Growing up Catholic teaches you to question everything, which is why I could not completely park my brain when I was quiverful. Why I still had questions, and there was that. Okay, so I got to talk about a couple things. First, I'm going to show you something. You know, I told you I would show you my projects as they were ongoing. This is part of the valance I'm making for the kitchen. I'm doing it in a very loose leaf pattern. I'm using that. And I'm making enough of these to go all the way around. I'm making a leaf pattern. I'm using that. And I'm making enough of these to go all the way around. I'm making a ton of these, and they're pretty easy, but I'm getting kind of tired of it. I'm on actually the last section. I've done 2 long sections. I got one more to go that I just started. I'm hoping by the end of the week I will have them all done. I'll be able to wash them, block them, and hang them. and replace the chickens, replace the hideous chickens. I can't stand the faith healers either, South Bug, because they're peddling that nonsense. Yeah, and secular healers peddling nonsense like Gwyneth Paltrow. Yeah, it turned out, well, Rose, I'll have to talk about Nita, please. Okay, for a long time, I worked off and on at an art studio that was a fiber studio too. I taught crochet. I took knitting classes there. I worked on the quilting end, in the quilting studio. And we used to use the term knitter please all the time, like somebody would say something that'd be utterly ridiculous. Rose, yeah. Utterly ridiculous would go, knitter please, or how are my knitters? You know, it became a comical thing. It was something we all used. So I didn't really think about how it actually came out of N-word please. I didn't think about that until recently. I was called to think about it by Real Entertainment News. And I talked it out with him because I used it and somebody took it offensively as a racial slur. When it's not a racial slur, it's just something that I routinely say because it's part of my vernacular from years of working and being part of, fiber arts. And it was just something we all said. So I told Ren, I said, I'm just not going to say it anymore online because heaven forfend that I make somebody think that I'm putting them down using race, because that is not at all what I want. I was raised in the Deep South where, sure enough, there are a lot of racists. But I was also raised going to Catholic school off and on, and we had a lot of Black kids at Catholic school. That was one thing I did like about it. We were pretty integrated, and much more so than the public schools that I attended. So there was that. So I never thought anything of it. Black people were just a fact of life. The part of the world I grew up in, there were lots and lots and lots and lots, a huge population, and they just become part of the scenery. You don't think bad things about them unless you're some kind of rebel flag wearing, skull chewing redneck. Oh, thank you so much, Rose. My knitter please yarn fun. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna call it. Oh, just say crafter please. That's exactly what I may have to do. You can't say crocheter please. It just does not sound right. Crafter please sounds better. Or artist please, something like that. But I'm not saying that anymore. Not online, probably not even out in the world, because heaven forfend, I don't want to make anybody feel bad about themselves in any way, shape, or form, except maybe Katie Joy, because she needs a solid dose of shame, that girl, to turn herself around. But everybody else, no. I mean, even people that I don't want to say beef because that's just a silly word, even people that I don't really like or care for much, like Charlotte and Waxy, particularly Waxy, since she said so many stupid things about Steve McRae and my friends, and none of them are true. And she won't back up. So there's that. Well, here's where the knit a please becomes problematic. Last year, one of KJ's stands tried to say I was saying the N-word please. And I realized, and I was like, what? What are you trying to say? Why are you trying to say I said the N-word? I figured out eventually she thought that me saying that I was saying the N-word, which I was not. So I pretty much had purged it from my vocabulary, even though I used it in writing on NLQ quite a bit. So I didn't do it much. Well, what happened was JJ, it is. It's so easy. And if you're old like me, some of the things that we used to say routinely are huge slurs now. I try not to say racial ones, because it's just, I don't want to hurt anybody for what race they are. People can't help that. They really can't. I can't help that I'm part white. I can't help that I'm part Jewish and Native American. It just is a thing. It's a thing. And I've got other ethnicities in me. So I wouldn't want to hear anybody making slurs against those ethnicities. Well, anyway, long story short, I quit using it for the most part. JJ has been coming in and out of my live stream, Ren's, Aaron's, a whole pile of people's live streams. Some of the same people that Waxy was talking trash about and attacking and saying just all kinds of nasty things, accusing anybody who didn't scream that Ren was the most awful thing on the planet, accusing us of doing all kinds of stuff. And so we pretty much, yeah, at least it's hard. It's hard when you're in this. So we were all very confused by that and like, why are you doing this? And I actually had to tell her one time on one live stream, I said, you're going to have to behave if you're here, because if you don't behave, I'm just going to block you. You can be mad at people. You can say all kinds of stuff. But the minute you start making it about, the minute you start just jumping in and being ugly, I'm just going to ban you. Disagree with me in a respectful way. If you say, hey, I don't agree with you, this is why, I can listen to that. Sometimes I'm going to say, I got to think about that. Sometimes I'm going to say, you're right. Sometimes I'm going to say, oh, no, you're absolutely wrong. This is why I think this way. A good example is when I was talking about the pictures of Josh Duggar being taken of his hands and feet to match to CP. I've had some people say, no, that's not what they do. Well, I've had some say, yes. I'm going with the yes crowd, because I know that the federal government is serious about ending this. And they're going to use whatever tool in their arsenal they can. So I think it's probably true. Everything I'm reading is this is the direction that tracking those guys is going. So I'm not immune to changing my mind. I've done it a million times. So anyway, yesterday, and I got to laugh on this when I went in there and I watched it. JJ, who I actually had said knitter please to on one of Ren's, a comment on Ren's site, and she came after me and said something ugly, and I just said knitter please and said something else. She started immediately screaming that was racist. So now she's made a big video about it with PJ. PJ is somebody I'm not real crazy about. I've seen PJ once or twice, and it was just like, yeah, I'm not going to make videos about how horrible you are, but you're pretty horrible, you know. So JJ could she could have easily searched it instead. She wanted to be angry and dialed it up to 11. Rose, that's exactly right. So she didn't, Lisa, you're right about what those pics could also be. Make sure they didn't rough him up. You're right. So she dialed it up to 11. She joined in with PJ. I've never seen PJ do a stream where I didn't say, oh my God. I've only done a couple of her streams. And there's so many falsehoods spilling from her mouth on her lunch break with her, how am I going to phrase it? I got to phrase this kindly, because I don't want to escalate everything. But I also don't want to approve of what's going on. Her exotically applied makeup. I'm just going to say it that way. So hey, Real Entertainment News, I'm talking trash right now about JJ. Puerto Rican JJ, as you call her. And so the two of them dialed it up to 11, and they made this video last night, and I just was laughing. I was laughing when I was watching it because it's so utterly ridiculous. But it reinforces yet again why I should not use that term. So I'm just going to say, artist, please, to those people who are being utterly ridiculous about things. I know you want no part of it. I know you're on your Kumbaya tour. But I am not on a Kumbaya tour. I'm going to just, please, when people come after me like that, I will sometimes address it here. Most of the time I won't, because I know PJ's gone after me before in the past, and I'm just like, whatever. I didn't even react to it. Here's the thing. You don't have to get mad about everything everybody says. That's what I think that a lot of YouTubers don't get. They don't get you don't have to have views. You can just say, whatever, and just walk away. which is my methodology. That's how I run my life on just about everything. I'm 61. I don't care to fight with everybody. It takes two people to fight. If you're not fighting, then the other person just looks foolish. They just look like they've lost their damn minds, and you're just like, whatever. Real, I'm not sure there is any peace to keep, because there are some people that are just going to jump to the worst. And that's their MO. I don't think you can keep peace with them, but I think the nicest thing you can do to them is just ignore them, because they have no effect on your real life. They don't have any effect on anything you're doing. I have 10 trillion projects going, as always. I have an upcoming interview with a documentarian in a few days. I have another one scheduled in 3 weeks. I got all this other stuff going on. And I have my real work. I have my writing. So I don't care about this YouTube stuff. It's just ridiculous. So that's my best to JJ and to PJ. Whatever. Oh, you could ask the person what they meant or Google it. Yes, you can. And I don't know about you guys, but Google is my friend. It's like when someone started telling me, hey, they're photographing Josh's feet so they can match it to film or photos. I was like, okay, I'm going to look that up. And I did. And I started finding these articles, and I started reasoning about it and reading about the direction that those investigations are starting to take. They're starting to nail these guys rather conclusively from their body parts. And I think that's excellent. That's a good way to do it. Can't argue with videotape. I haven't had a chance to catch up with that reel. I've been trying to keep better hours, because for a while there, I was burning the candle at all ends, and the only thing that happened was I had a couple of nights where I slept like 10 hours. I can't do that. I got stuff to do. It's like even this morning, here I'm talking to you guys, and I'm showing off crochet and Chick Tracts. I got to go mop the living room. I don't want to do it, but it kind of smells like cats out there. This is my safe room that I keep immaculate all the time. I don't always manage that with the living room because of the asthma. And now they're not walking. So I have to have my husband help me with the sweeping. The mopping I can handle, because you can lean on the mop for balance. So that works for me. But I don't do it as often now because I'm sick. So I think I'm going to have to hire somebody to come in and do this stuff. I'm just going to have to, because I don't think that sweeping and mopping is something that I want to be doing. But it smells out there. It smells, but the thing is, it's been really humid here, and the house always gets a weird smell when it's humid. So I gotta mop. And I don't really want to do it, because it's going to make it's going to make me just be done for the day. Yeah, those are good points. He's spending big bucks on his defense. He really is. So, Rio, what's going on? You're fighting with this gal? I haven't even gone in to look and see who she is yet, because like I said, I've had my hands full. I've got all the documentary stuff going on. I've got people I'm talking to about other projects, including KJ projects. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now, and I just have not had the time. My day is a lot fuller than it should be for somebody who's struggling with their health. Anyway, speaking of which, I'm going to go ahead on and go. I've said everything that I'm going to say. I'm going to say avoid Chick Tracts, or you can do like me and you can collect them, because they're actually really funny. Like I said earlier, I thought about scanning these in and printing them on cloth, because I think I have some stuff I can do that with. And making a purse and making fun of it and just having a good time with it, because that's what I do. I come up with crazy stuff. I got to show my coffee cup off again. Love After Lockup coffee cup. I envy Splendor in the Trash, because she is so damn talented. I've never seen anything that I didn't think was just hysterically funny she's done. Funny is good. So you guys have a really great day. And I'm trying to work on a project where I'm coming up with the most common things that are said to suppress women and other scriptures that you could say to debate that, to push it away, say, that's my big thing. Okay, love you guys. I'm going to go. I could do a Chick Tract quilt. I would have to get more than these, I think. I think I would have to actually order the pack from Jack Chick, and I would rather not do that, but I might do it. That might be an interesting, weird quilt. You know me. I'm doing well. How are you doing, Queen Mary? I hope you're doing well. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mary. I'm getting ready to go mop my floors. My least favorite thing to do in the entire house, but I got to do it. I can't put it off any longer. I can't put it off any longer. When you start smelling the stale smell, it's time to mop.